Hello, my name is Heather McLean and I'm with the Alliance Against Northern Pass. And today I'm going to be interviewing Jim Rubens, who is running for a seat in the U.S. Senate for the state of New Hampshire. And we'd like to discuss some of the energy topics today because we're the Alliance Against the Northern Pass. And Jim will be running for the seat in the Senate, and I'd like to know, first of all, Jim, welcome. And I would like to know, if you become a U.S. Senator, what would your job be in the field of energy before we even go to the Northern Pass?
Yeah. Well, the job of a U.S. Senator is to be accountable only to the people that a U.S. Senator represents, and in this case, to the people of the state of New Hampshire. And Washington has become corrupt beyond belief. Washington is self-interested. People get down there. U.S. Senators, half of them become lobbyists when they leave office, and they earn millions of dollars a year. And so the entire Washington establishment has become excessively self-serving, and they've become distant, and that's why I'm running against Jeanne Shaheen, who has become a creature of the Washington establishment and is no longer connected to or representing the people of the state. And this plays out in issues that affect people who live right around here. Northern Pass, wind power.
So there's a lot of egos and people driven by maybe money.
Self-interest, protect my career, keep myself in Washington, create a great payday for myself when I leave office by becoming a lobbyist. This is a major set of motivations. So what it does is it separates the people who represent us in the U.S. Senate from what the Constitution gave us, which is a Congress accountable only to the people who represent them, and we've lost that.
Yeah.
So I'm running because I've term limited myself. If I'm honored to go to the U.S. Senate, I will serve only 2 terms.
Okay.
And I'm not going down there to get rich or get cozy with lobbyists. I'm down there to solve the extremely serious problems of the country, one of which is government that is out of touch with the people now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who are they in touch with?
They're in touch with the people who pay them.
That's right.
It's the people who fund the campaigns. The campaigns are extraordinarily expensive. You've got to be on TV for a massive amount of time to blizzard the people of the state with negative advertising.
That's right.
You've got to protect your incumbency by making sure you do business with the people that give you campaign contributions. And it's not ordinary Americans who fund this stuff. It's the interest groups I call them crony capitalists,
okay,
who are seeking to pervert and distort the free marketplace instead of competing for customers' dollars by providing a great product or service and innovating. They are busy manipulating the mechanics of government and Congress in order to get their way.
Can we use an example of, say, something close to the New Hampshire hearts would be the company PS&H?
I have battled PS&H. I served in the state senate here in the state. I've battled PS&H 3 times. I was the guy who got electricity competition going. I launched a debate so that customers can choose which electric company they can buy from. That's a great idea. It's consistent with freedom and free markets. You get to choose which electric company you buy from, and you can choose based upon whether they have green power or low price power or anything else you want. Mm-hmm. And companies compete. And the problem with this for PS&H is they have high-cost power, and the competitors have lower-cost power. And the people of the state of New Hampshire, as a result of this bill on which I launched debate, electricity competition,
yes,
has led to them losing market share. And so they're going back to the legislature trying to find ways to get money out of the ratepayer.
Okay, and they do that by trying to influence the government.
Well, of course they do, and
okay,
it can happen in a variety of ways.
Okay.
One way is if you look on your electric bill, anyone who buys power from PS&H, you look on your electric bill, you see a line called stranded costs. That is when we launched electricity competition in the state in the 1990s, PS&H refused to go along with it. And they basically held the state government captive until they got the legislature and the governor to give them $2.1 billion to pay them to compensate them for their bad investments, their past bad investments in power plants. So the legislature, after I left office, I held this off in my 4 years in the state senate. I like competition, but I don't like crony capitalism. I held it off when I left office in 1988. Jeanne Shaheen was governor. She did the deal with PS&H in 2001 and allowed them to put the $2.1 billion in stranded cost onto your electric bill. So even if you buy power from a competing supplier, You'll still see on your electric bill, if you buy from PSNH, your stranded cost line, thanks to Gene Shaheen, caving into crony capitalists. A more recent fight would be their Bow power plant, their scrubber,
Yeah.
$450-some-odd million. They managed to get that built without approval from the site evaluation committee, and I won't go into a lot of detail there. That gets a little bit arcane, but you folks you're fighting site evaluation committee questions, and now you're fighting them. You're fighting them in Northern Pass, and
That's right.
I'm happy to hear your questions about that or your comments.
Yes, so here we have, just to seal that off, PSNH, who is in agreement or reached an agreement with a company in Canada, Hydro-Quebec, in order to bring power through the state into the southern states. So we're talking about Massachusetts, Connecticut, maybe Rhode Island, where they supposedly need power. PSNH uses their connections and their lobbyists and all of those things to influence the state to allow this kind of project to come in.
Right.
Okay.
From my sense on this Northern Pass question is the people of the state of New Hampshire would accept our state being used as an extension cord between northern, the Hydro-Quebec power, hydropower, and Connecticut that wants the power and needs the power. We would accept that. We would accept being that extension cord if the line was buried.
Yes.
And this could be done. You could bury it. Other states are doing this. You could bury it under state-owned rights-of-way. You could bury it under I-93. You could bury it under abandoned state rail beds. And the difference and the problem that PSNH would have with that is that the state would get the money.
That's right.
It would help support our state government, which is having financial problems right now. So the state would pick up something in the order of 75, I've heard numbers over $100 million a year for allowing our state highways and abandoned rail beds to be used to bury that extension cord. And I think the people of the state would accept this because the advantage of doing it that way, for the people of the state here, we wouldn't have to see the power lines overhead. It wouldn't wreck the beautiful parts of our state that we rely upon. Absolutely, it's a central part of tourism, it's a central part of our way of being, and we don't want a scar across the face of our North Country.
Yeah, and we probably wouldn't need gambling either.
It would be another source of revenue for the state.
It'd be another source.
Yeah.
It'd be a one that,
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily be,
Yeah.
people dumping money. But
Yeah.
yes, so yes, people would accept the Northern Pass. I believe this whole issue would be buried.
Buried.
All right.
Yeah.
However, when you talk to PSNH, they actually pretend that option, they've never changed their stance. It's always this droning of it's going to be 10 times more expensive.
Yeah.
But the truth is what they do is they omit the truth
Right.
by saying 10 times more expensive if we put it on our right of way, which is where we really want it, and we don't
Right.
care where you want it.
Right. Yeah, because they want the money. See, what this
Yes.
is really all about is whether the state gets the money for the
Right.
extension cord, the buried extension cord, or whether PSNH gets the $60-some-odd million a year to send to Connecticut to its corporate parent, Northeast Utilities, for scarring our state's landscape and defacing the North Country. So the real question is, should we deface the North Country so that PSNH can get $62 million to send to Connecticut, to Northeast Utilities, or should the state of New Hampshire get $60 or $100 million a year burying the power line so that no one sees it on state-owned land and highways?
Yes, okay, and so...
I think that's a simple question. And the question for the people of the state of New Hampshire is, will you accept Congress and the Federal Energy Regulatory Administration being manipulated by this attempted crony capitalism to distort the mechanics of state government through our site evaluation committee and our legislature in the state and our federal government and FERC, to distort those tools that represent the people in order to enrich one particular corporation and deface the state? I think it's a simple question. It's why we need to...
I think if you talk to any person, they would choose burial. Okay, so there's been all these strange ways for PSNH to try to forward their agenda. Here's the bottom line. All these years, people have been fighting and voicing their opinion and their thoughts to the New Hampshire legislature. There have been some changes, as you and I discussed.
The legislature is listening.
Yes.
More than they have in the past. In fact, I've been in PSNH fights for, like I say, 20 years now. I've been involved in this company in political fights, and the legislature in New Hampshire is listening to the people more than they have ever listened before. Enough? Not yet. But they're listening more. Go ahead.
They're listening more.
Yeah.
But how do you take away the agreement that's between Hydro-Quebec and PSNH and Northeast Utilities and give it to the state? How do you do that?
I think it would be up to, if I were the governor of New Hampshire, I think you need a governor that is, let me digress for a minute. I was given the extraordinary opportunity to interview all the 4 candidates for governor.
Okay.
Back before the 2012 elections. There were 2 Republicans running and 2 Democrats running. And I had the chance to interview Maggie Hassan, who's now the governor of the state. And I asked her, why do we have to appoint people to the Public Utilities Commission, to the Site Evaluation Committee that control these things, that many of whom appear to have perceived conflicts of interest? And her answer to me was, well, those are the only people who know about these issues. And so we have to appoint them. That was a telling answer that I got from the governor, now the present governor of the state of New Hampshire. And I believe, it's how corporate cronyism happens. It happens through political campaigns. It's why I'm running to replace Jeanne Shaheen in office. The FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, has ultimate authority to approve the Northern Pass line, right, at the federal level.
This is where you come in.
This is where these elections come in. Do you want a candidate representing and accountable only to the people of the state of New Hampshire or another Washington corporate crony? You can get any number of Washington corporate cronies to do the business of corporate cronyism.
So when you get into office, I want to say,
if the voters decide they want a candidate and a representative in the United States Senate accountable only to the people.
Yes.
If that's what the people want. The people in this state have the power to do that on September 9th and in November at the general election. The people have the power to make these decisions. And Jeanne Shaheen has not stood up firmly and clearly enough.
Not at all.
The FERC process by which this line will ultimately be approved or disapproved. It looks like it's in the bag now, I hate to say it. Congress can influence that.
Yes.
Congress can say the people of my state, Jeanne Shaheen can say, the people of my state do not want this.
Okay.
Yes, PSNH wants it, but the people of my state to whom I'm accountable do not want this. And there are alternative means by which we can get power, sufficient electricity in the NEPU New England grid.
If you become
and FERC should stop playing around with selecting consultants who have conflict of interests. I mean, you folks have seen this over the years, right?
Yes.
That stuff should not be allowed. The foot should come down immediately and say no to that kind of stuff.
Right.
Immediate
and
no.
Get away
not
with
pussyfoot around with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're getting away with it.
Yeah.
Because the people who represent us in Washington, and Jeanne Shaheen, I lay this at her doorstep, are not sufficiently standing up for the people of New Hampshire.
Right.
It's got to change.
She just seems to, try to have this touchy-feely, I'm a nice person.
Try to get along with everyone. You can't get along with everyone. The corporate cronies want to extract.
Yeah.
They want to extract our wealth from the North Country by defacing our North Country. Mm-hmm. That's what they want. And you've got to have a U.S. Senator who's going to stand up and say, no way.
Okay. And do you have time to do that when you get in office?
You better believe it. And if I don't have time to do that, I should be voted out of office. That's simple.
Yes, I'm liking that. And so, okay, and I was also asked, because the same people who watch the Alliance Against Northern Pass are also concerned about the wind turbines on our hills.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's the larger issue of energy policy. I'm going to go to the big picture on energy.
Okay.
We need the United States of America and the entire free world to stop being dependent on $100 a barrel oil and oil that we're forced to import from enemies of the United States. How do we do that? We need a long-range energy policy that makes us, that unleashes the spirit of entrepreneurialism, the free market we have in this country that is on the cusp of giving us abundant, low-cost, completely clean power from things like solar and geothermal and wood pellets, ocean tidal, deep offshore wind where you can't see the windmills and the wind blows 24/7. The R&D on this can be done in our economy. Our innovators are ready to do this. What we do need to do to allow that to happen faster, we need to get corporate cronyism out of energy policy in Washington. And let me explain how that works. You've got subsidies for various kinds of energies.
Subsidies.
And let's say you're
Big one.
I'll illustrate beginning with one that doesn't affect us here in New Hampshire, and then one that does. I'll start with corn ethanol. Now, the corn ethanol lobby wants us to put corn ethanol fuel into our gas tanks, which reduces our gas mileage and causes our cars not to work quite as well in the wintertime. And the reason they can force that upon Americans is because they have a very, very powerful lobby in Washington to manipulate the tax code and subsidies and special perks so that that particular form of energy gets special privileges in the economy because they have enough lobbyists to make this happen.
And then they have the subsidies also that make it artificially cheaper.
They have subsidies, and now the effect of that is to distort the energy marketplace.
Yes.
So corn ethanol is
Yes.
in our gas tanks where it might be otherwise, but it might not be otherwise. The marketplace would decide on that. But the lobbyists in Washington for that industry have forced that into our gas tanks.
Okay.
Is it helping? It's not helping farmers in the state. It's driving up the cost of corn. It's making dairy farmers hard to live. Now let's get to another example, wind power. I love wind power. I think it's a great thing where people want it. And in Texas and Iowa, they love wind power. In Texas, they look like oil wells. And they're money machines. In parts of New Hampshire, people like them also. I know that, but there are parts of New Hampshire, such as where we're sitting here today, where people don't want to look at them because you know what makes the economy go around in this part of the state. It's our incredible natural beauty. It's the hills, the rolling hills, and the free space, and the open vistas. And it's fundamental to the way we live in this part of the state, in our North Country, and it's fundamental to our tourist economy for two huge reasons. And so we have a subsidy for wind power. It's called the investment tax credit and the production tax credit. And that's and you have oil subsidies, you have coal subsidies, you have nuclear subsidies. So I'm proposing we take all of these subsidies and remove them from the energy marketplace, all of them. And we can phase them out over a reasonable period of time, somewhere between 1 and 5 years, phase them all out, and let the entrepreneurs, unleash the entrepreneurs who will give us, these entrepreneurs will give us solar power that will put on our rooftops, that it's already almost cost competitive in New Hampshire. In parts of New Hampshire it is cost competitive now. Wind power is cost competitive in parts of New Hampshire and Texas, completely so. And these newer energy technologies, and we will have in America a way to get around this $100 a barrel oil that's punishing us in our state. We don't have any oil in our state. And these corporate welfare subsidies forcing energy forms on us that we don't want. So we want an energy economy where individuals choose whatever form of energy works for their house, their region, their economy, their business. And you'll have these different kinds of energy competing against one another without corporate cronyism, without corporate without manipulation of our tax code. And if that were the case, you would not see windmills in Newfoundland.
Right.
They would, because first of all, the people would have control over local policy, local siting policy. And number two, the subsidies would not make them artificially economic.
Right. I agree.
So I am not a person who defends let's remain dependent on oil forever. And natural gas is a good clean fuel. It's a bridge fuel, but we need to get to a place where the entire free world has cheap, endlessly abundant, totally clean energy.
Jim, I want to thank you so much for coming to talk to the people today. I see you as a People's New Hampshire Senator for the U.S. Senate seat, as opposed to the corporate senator. And
That's right.
I very much enjoyed talking to you. It was very enlightening, and I wanted to bring across the people like myself who are sort of, everyday people that don't sit in the government all the time, like what you can do as a U.S. Senator. And I think you answered my questions very, very nicely.
Thank you. Heather, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you. And obviously I would love to have people's votes in the state. This is Jim Rubens. And you can go to my website, jimrubens.com, to learn more about the campaign. You can sign up to volunteer. You can write a check. You can man the polling places come September 9th when this question will be raised. There is a Republican primary going on, and I'm a Republican. And there's a primary going on, and there are different kinds of Republicans running for this office. And
I can see that.
I offer myself as a candidate, a Republican candidate, who is not going to go Washington. I've term limited myself, and I'm here to do the job of representing the people of the state of New Hampshire. And I'm very committed to that and absolutely serious about it. So I really, really appreciate you having me on today.
Well, I very much appreciate having you here. So thank you very much. This is the Alliance Against Northern Pass, and good day.